You know about my situation with my girlfriend Alex and her accident with the car and stuff like that.
Yes. Well,
shall I explain it?
well, do you want to talk about this? So
Yeah, it's something that we haven't really talked about, and it's been hard to talk about, but I've starting to come to terms with it. But so Alex, basically, she got run over by a car in Cheltenham, and it was a strange situation. So she had parked her car around the corner, which she never really does, and she took her dogs with her that day because we were moving. And as she was walking around the corner, a car mounted the pavement and flipped her up in the air, and basically she broke her pelvis, broke her wrist, knees, legs, ligaments, everything, neck brace for like 8 weeks. And it had like for me, for the first 3 days, I just had a blur. I mean, for instance, when it actually happened, we were living on a one-way street, and she walked up to the right, which is going the wrong way for if a car was to go down. But obviously, you're a pedestrian, so it's fine. And my car was out the door and left. So as I left about 5 minutes after her. I looked up the road and saw a commotion, but didn't really think about what it was. All I had in my head is I've got to get to work.
yeah.
So anyway, off I go on to work. On the way to work, listen to the radio and hear this broadcast where it's like, a car's hit cyclists, and I was like, oh, possibly that's what the commotion's about. Anyway, start to do my work at work. I'm about 20 minutes away where I work, and I get this phone call on my phone from Alex, and I'm like, she doesn't phone me at this time in the morning, so I picked that up. And it was the police, and they said, Alex has been involved in an accident. And I guessed straight away it was what I heard on the news, just because of where the location was and stuff. But I got rushed down because she got taken to Bristol, and I got taken down there, and I was just in this like real haze state. And honestly, I can't really remember the timeline of what happened. Like, I know things happened, but it's just because I was a bit on autopilot, and because we're moving, I was thinking about our logistics and things like that, and also because I knew that another person had been involved. I was like, oh, how's that person doing? Not realizing at that point that he was completely in the wrong, and I shouldn't have sympathy. But I think as the type of person I am, I want to make sure like everyone's okay. But which was a really weird thing to find myself in, especially after knowing that it was his fault. But anyway, so since then, she spent, I think it was 2 weeks in Southmead, got moved down to Devon whilst I was still in Cheltenham, and she spent the time rehabbing with her parents because they were better set up for it. Our house was like, you had to go upstairs and things like that, so it's just not feasible. So for that 6 months, I said, oh, I'll move back down to Devon, but she was adamant that we were going to live our life no matter what happened. So she wanted to be up in Cheltenham with me, and I felt guilty for her coming up to Cheltenham, but then that's the place she wanted to move to. There was like better job opportunities and things like that for her, but it was a very weird time for me because my life was on hold. So same with Alex, her life was on hold, but she had now got this whole thing to focus on, to getting back into some sort of fitness to be able to like walk and things like that. But for me, it's just like a limbo where you're in a state of not knowing what to do for 6 months. And then I went back to the week after, and I was just like, it was really hard.
So a week after, she was still, were you unsure whether she was going to be okay?
No, I knew
was she stable?
She was stable at that point. So for the first, like, she can't remember anything from about 5 days before to up until about 2 days after the accident. And then
5 days before?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, so they think it's because her brain's protecting her from what's happened,
Mm.
or that's like the theory, but it could just be that there's like a slight brain injury or something. But it's so hard for me to comprehend having that missed moment of time for her, if that makes sense. And it's something that I still haven't got my head round. It's like, how can't you remember that? But that's the rational sort of thought coming out.
Is the memory of the time very clear for you? Do you think, or have you blocked it out at all?
No, that day is. But then from after that, when I was trying to come to terms with stuff, everything sort of merged into one.
Jeez, yeah. Well, look, I mean,
but saying that, since then we've seen specialists, we're starting to get like our lives back on track, and it's just trying to adjust to life and thinking about where you're going, like what's the terrain like, can we feasibly do this? Like, we can't just go, say, hike up a mountain or whatever.
Well, just so everybody knows, how is she now? She's doing she's pretty
doing
much
really well.
100%, right? She's still got therapy, isn't she? She's doing, but she's you wouldn't be able to tell by she walks fine, she moves fine. I mean, she's got a little therapy she has to do, doesn't she, for certain things?
Quite a lot, yes. She, before lockdown, she was going to see like a physiotherapist. She's had like ACL reconstructions.
How long ago was the accident now?
So, funnily enough, September the 11th, which is 2017.
Jesus, that's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah.
But thinking back on it, it's weird how the world works. How you can have that what about or what if thoughts. So what if we weren't moving that day? Would she have taken the dogs with her, who subsequently, unfortunately, passed away, and probably helped save her life, because they took a lot of the impact. But what if, because she left slightly late because we couldn't find her keys, what if she had found the keys straight away? What if her car wasn't parked 2 streets over? What if it's hard to get out of that mentality of what if, but then if you realize that life is life and things happen, and this is going back to like the being rational versus like having that that fate sort of mentality, or like the God sort of mentality. That is just something that happens in life, and that it's a higher being or higher meaning.
It's like a lesson.
And yes, it's a lesson. And as people, I think Alex and I have developed as people. She's so tough, to be fair to her. She's come through a lot of adversity, especially with other stuff that's been going on in her life, but I don't want to.
How do you think you've changed? Because this applies to what I was saying before, how, as I said, certain pressure makes diamonds. Yeah. And, you know, as I said before, I use my tree analogy. As the tree goes further into hell, it goes higher up into the light. How do you think this has made you a more mature person? Like, you activated during that haze you were talking about. That was a period where you were probably being massively transformed. That was like a shift from the Aidan before to the Aidan after. Yeah. Because they're two different Aidans were talking about there.
In that phase, I was trying to gather a plan in my head how to go ahead, sort of thing. Like all the stuff we need to do in the short term to get things sorted, so that if Alex does come back up to Cheltenham, everything's sorted. But then how we can sort of move on, but then what you try and think about, and you think about all these ideas in your head, like, oh, I'm going to move back to Devon, but realistically, is that the best thing for us? No, we moved away from Devon. We'd probably end up retiring back there or something, but there's a reason why we were in Cheltenham. There's a reason why we moved. There's a reason why we want to settle elsewhere, or it was a very strange time, and the whole 6 months after, just going from living full time with your partner to seeing them once a week or once every 2 weeks is very difficult. But I think because I was at university where we only saw each other on a irregular basis anyway, it was hard, but it wasn't as hard as it possibly would have been if you're not used to the situation, but it's still very difficult. But I think we've come out the other side stronger as a pair, definitely.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
I was going to say...
We're more in tune with each other, I think, now.
I think, ultimately, that's how people have always came together in the past, is over, struggle. And I think I read once that people are more likely to fall in love if they go through something dangerous together.
Yeah.
A lot of the time now, what relationships are based on? What are they really based on? What they're based on is sometimes so shallow, isn't it?
Yeah.
When actually, you see these films and these love stories and
everything's too perfect.
But then sometimes it is too perfect. But then sometimes they come together through going through shit together.
Yeah.
Because when they go through the shit, they're really being as real as they ever were.
Mm.
Are you really going to fall in love with somebody if all you have with somebody is just shallow memories of going out getting pissed up all the time? Or are you going to really have memories of actually... Sometimes the strongest memories are memories where actually they're not the best memories.
Where you've had to fight adversity.
But you've had to fight.